Hi everybody, how are you doing? This is Tara Green here, and it is April the 5th, and I've been compiling and looking at and thinking about, of course, what everybody's talking about, the great American total solar eclipse of April the 8th. So I'm going to have to do a few videos about this because there's a couple of things that I want to delve into that are calling me. So of course the eclipse, now you can look up all the charts. Of course, people have been talking about this eclipse coming for a whole year because it's such a big deal. It will be a very long eclipse, and at some point, if you're in the right place in Texas, I believe it's over 4 minutes long. So it will be perfecting. Again, you have to look this up where you are. It says here in my book, but it's not quite accurate actually, that it's at totality at 2:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, but I believe it really does change city to city. Okay, so now we see here, this is the astrology chart, and this chart is set for, just so you can see here, well, this is set for the US chart on the inside there. So the outside cusp here, 13 degrees of Sag, is the US Sibley chart. And this chart is set for 2:21 p.m. And I set it for Lilydale, New York, because Lilydale, New York is on the path close to Buffalo, where it's in totality, and it's a very famous spiritual place. So you can see, of course, this is what they call an Aries stellium here. So the total solar eclipse is like a super new moon, right? It's at 19 degrees of Aries, 24 minutes. So there's the sun and the moon right there, okay? And this is the US chart here. So you can see it's all happening, all that Aries energy, not just the sun and the moon, but Venus and Mercury retrograde, which is ruling this eclipse to some extent, and Chiron, the wounded healer, and the North Node of the moon, which is responsible for creating all eclipses. The North and South nodes of the moon create all eclipses, lunar, solar, and they're very ancient. And the North Node is called the Dragon's Head, or Rahu. This is from ancient Indian Vedic astrology. And the South Node is called Ketu, the Dragon's Tail. Now, we also happen to be in a green dragon year. So the dragon symbology is very powerful. And dragons were always feared. They hoarded the wealth, right? And there was different kinds of dragons. Like in China, there was wind dragons and, different water dragons, all different kinds. They're magical beings. Now, so all of this energy here is basically in the U.S.'s fourth house, where it says IC there. That's Latin. IC is midnight, where the sun would be at midnight. So the fourth house here, basically all the planets, and we call the sun and the moon planets just to make it simple. They're traditionally called luminaries, bound up in that point. Now, you want to notice something else here. Chiron, the wounded healer, is exactly conjunct the sun, okay? So while the eclipse is going on, and even though we won't see Chiron, it's one of the only bodies in the sky that's a comet, an asteroid, and a centaur, like Sagittarius, being occulted really by the eclipse. And an occultation means a planet or a star is covering another one. So the occultation, the occult meaning of Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries, the sign of the soldier, it is about, for me, it's all about us really healing the PTSD from ourselves and from every generation, because we carry all the emotional, all the memories of every mother, foremother, grandmother, back through time. Okay, so this is the point. When all the planets are lined up like this, what's called a stellium, it's like, here, you have to get this message. This is what the universe is telling us. And they're making it long. And the paths on the earth, the cities on the earth that are going to be in that totality, that narrow 80 to 100 mile swath, are the ones that are going to be affected the most. I think Montreal, Canada is one of the largest cities population-wise. It's going to be in the totality. And of course, Texas. Now, if you look at the NASA maps, you can see that the great eclipse that happened in 2017 also crossed America, and the one that happened October 28th, the lunar eclipse, also crossed. So there's these X's, marks the spot, and coincidentally, and there is no coincidence, synchronistically, the X point is in Texas for one of those major eclipse crossings, and that's exactly where Mr. X himself, Elon Musk, has SpaceX, basically, Tesla. So he's somehow involved very much in the symbolism of the eclipse. Now, eclipses were always feared by the ancients because they saw it as a dragon eating the sun. So when the eclipse totally disappears, it was terrifying. People thought, what if the sun never comes back? So in China, they'd get out and they'd bang a lot of drums. They'd be making a lot of offerings. And of course, because it was so terrifying and the sun was seen as a god, people made offerings and they wanted to know, is this going to happen again? Can we be ready? And so this is ancient stargazing, was watching these events and noticing that they came at the same place in the sky every 19 years. There's 2 cycles with eclipses. One's called a metonic cycle of 19, and the other one is 18 plus years. And they're numbered by astronomers as Saros cycles that sometimes last thousands and thousands of years. So I won't get into that right now. The only thing I wanted to say also, there's a lot of biblical prophecy, a lot of fear around eclipses. Really, they're only traditionally involved in the death of kings, queens, leaders. That's also very much in the news, traditionally. But for ordinary people, not so much. They were seen as portents of war, often danger, famine, pestilence, bad things. You know, it depends what kind of astrology you want to look at here. And so you want to really feel the energy of the eclipse. Now, traditionally, people did not go out in eclipse. They were scared. They stayed in the house, especially pregnant women. You know, most people want to watch it, want to see it, because you get to see this magnificent corona of the sun. Now, you have to make sure your eyes are protected, of course, and your camera phone is protected when you watch the eclipse, of course, because you can go blind from it. So I also wanted to mention one thing. Yes, so the biblical prophecy, you know, there's all these things, synchronicity, like CERN, CERN in Switzerland, that's, you know, shooting particles and opening dimensional doorways and looking for the God particle, is starting up on April the 8th. So there's big conspiracy theories about that. Why are they doing it now? It's been sort of dormant for the last couple of years while they've retooled it. And it unleashes incredible power. And of course, while there's a solar eclipse, it changes the electromagnetic frequencies of the Earth. And as it gets dark in the middle of the day, and hopefully it'll be clear where you are, it's quite amazing to see the sky go suddenly black and the stars will appear. And there's a comet, which they call the devil comet, or I've seen it called the dragon comet, that may be visible in the sky. It'll be visible after the eclipse as well. So people are going on about that. And comets are also portents of feared events, but apparently this comet looks green, and green comets are supposed to be good luck. And also we're in a green dragon year, so all the green, the wearing of the green, it's lucky, it's Mother Nature, green, money, heart energy, heart chakra energy. And then there's all these biblical prophecies about the heifer, the red heifer being slaughtered in Israel, and for actually to purify the Jewish race. It hasn't been done in 2,000 years. There's a rabbi who got these 5 heifers into Israel. They've been in a secret location. They're going to slaughter one of them as a ancient sacrifice to cleanse the Jewish people of all the genocide that's been going on. And some people are believing, you know, Bible thumpers believe it's you know, to prepare for the Messiah and all that stuff, but I don't believe that. But anyway, there is a comet called the Great Christ Comet, which actually Astro includes. And my intuition said, yeah, why not throw that in and see? So here it is. Now, when the U.S. was born, it was in Aries, and of course it hasn't moved very much in all these years. So here it is. It's sandwiched right in between Venus and the Sun and the North Node. So yeah, maybe all this biblical stuff has something to do with it, because it is involved in the mix there. So there's that. So 4th house in the U.S. The 4th house in the U.S., like everybody's 4th house, is where you live. It is your home. It's your foundation. It is your ancestors. It's your mother. It's the womb. It's what feeds you. It's what nourishes you. It's what makes you feel safe. So, you know, America's always felt safe. That's my cat. She's leaning on my shoulder. Being a warrior nation, you know, kind of defending the good, supposedly, and acting like the big hero. And that's what Aries is all about, right? And so the North Node is where the collective needs to go to. It is in Aries, and it is, you know, fairly close to the sun and the moon, okay? So we need to start, Venus has just entered Aries today, we need to start moving into a brand new reality, a brand new creation. It's like the Big Bang. It's like, oh my God, like we're waking up to a whole new thing. But, you know, and Aries tends to be brash and spontaneous and just sort of jumps in and a little trigger happy. So we have to be careful about violence and people getting angry and rageaholics and fires and destruction and volcanic activity and all of that kind of stuff. Now, the south node of the moon is directly opposite the north. It is at, where are we? It's at 19 degrees. The node of the moon is actually, no, it's at 15 degrees. Okay, so the south node of the moon at 15 degrees here, in connection to the US natal chart, is right on its natal Saturn. So of course, Saturn, father time, the seniors, the seniority, the old ways, the tradition is what we need to release. And it's bang on, it's total connection there. Releasing the past. So for everybody, Saturn is not opposite everybody's chart, but it's opposite US's chart, and it is very much the US mainly eclipse. Rejecting the past imbalances caused by the patriarchal justice system, that's Libra, justice, karma. So it is a big karmic reckoning time, I would say, symbolically, because the planets are really symbols, and they're usually very literal. Now, Saturn and the South Node are squaring the US Sun here at 13 degrees of Cancer, conjunct the fixed star Sirius. If you believe in aliens coming in, the Sirians are supposed to have something to do with our creation. You would tune into the Sirians there. But the pressure is on for the US Sun, acting like the big mother in the world, to change the way they work with women, because Cancer is the sign of the mothers, protecting women's rights, protecting the children. There's a lot of stuff in the news about, of course, sex trafficking, child trafficking, all of that. And so all of that is going to come to light. So when the eclipse happens, you know, we're in daylight and suddenly it goes into the darkness. So the shadows are revealed, and we've been seeing that coming up in the news too. So the secrets that people have been holding back and the imbalances in our lives and in America are going to come to the surface here, right? Okay, now, the other thing I wanted to mention here, besides all of this Aries energy, fiery, passionate, impulsive, dangerous, living dangerously, competitive, it's very much a war signature as well. But it's very much like the America's past life karma is catching up to it too. Mars and Saturn, the two planets that are considered to be great malefics, are also coming together. They're very close here. In Pisces, they will meet 2 days after the eclipse, which is even more dangerous than the eclipse actually. On the 10th, 4:36 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 14 Pisces, right in those middle degrees. And it is trining, which is an easy aspect to the US Sun, and squaring the US rising sign, which is 13 Sag and 13 Gemini. So again, there can be major conflict coming up now because the eclipse is really centered in Texas. I do believe Texas is going to want to leave the Union. I do believe it is a start of a civil war. There's all kinds of major historical portents going along with this. But basically, I would say, you know, you can see everything's lined up there. Jupiter and Uranus are also together. They're going to also come together on the 20th. Very historic conjunction on the 20th at 22 degrees of Taurus. It rules the bull market. It rules the resources. It is also trining the US Pluto at 27 Capricorn there. So that can be quite good. That's in the house of work and poverty and servants and health and food. And so there may be some big issues with, you know, Uranus is all about, you know, fake food. I want to say Soylent Green, you know, a big struggle between the plutocrats and the little people, the farmers, which has already been going on in the world. And just like in Canada, the truckers, so the ordinary workers, the hands-on, the resource people, the tools, could be big battles starting at this time as well. But really, don't be afraid of the eclipse. It's really important, you know, never to manifest during an eclipse. Traditionally, according to Tibetan Buddhists, you're supposed to say prayers. The whole day is all about putting out positive prayers, not for yourself, but for the world, and the world definitely needs this. So do whatever feels right to you. Go out and see the eclipse. Don't see the eclipse. There's going to be millions of people, I believe, in Niagara Falls and going to see it, especially all over the U.S., certain parks and things like that, also in Mexico. But do not fear it. It's really important. Is some people are being very personally affected by the eclipse. Of course, if you have planets at 18, 19, 20 degrees of all the cardinal signs, which is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And in that case, you are powerfully impacted, okay? And also, if you're going to be there under the totality. Now, according to traditional astrology, the longer the eclipse lasts, then its effects also last longer. And because I believe it's a month for an hour, sorry, a year for every hour, one of the astrologers on said that it's going to last over 13 months then, right? And this is only the spring eclipse season. There is going to be 2 eclipses again in the fall. So don't worry, don't fear, stay grounded. It is a new beginning for everybody. We want to, jump into the new, right? But Mercury is retrograde, okay? So you're not going to jump too fast just yet. I think that's a good thing. The ruling planet of Aries is Mars. Mars is in Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter traditionally and Neptune. Jupiter is in Taurus. And Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and Venus is in Mars's sign. So Venus is really what they call the final dispositor of this eclipse, and she always brings a balance of love into the war. So are we going to value feminine values and go into the, the feminine strengths of bringing a new beginning? I do believe that that's what really needs to happen, and everybody needs to heal. It's major, major healing time. So let go of old relationships that are holding you back and move bravely into the new. It's a time for courage, for bravery, for strength, for renewal. And if you want to get in touch with me, I am at tarottarot.com, sending you many blessings.